This guy is nuts. Is he really making daily recordings of his possible divorce and releasing it as a podcast? They both cheated on each other? She's making 6 figures and still doesn't contribute to any joint endeavors financially? Why is she still with him? Why is he still with her? I can't wait for the next episode. This helps me be a better wife. So this is how men think. I hate my husband less now. I understand my wife more now. These are some of the listener comments to the Divorce Diaries podcast. All over the map, I know. These anonymous accounts of events should resonate with anyone that has been married, is married, or is preparing for marriage, and helps couples avoid pitfalls as they might prepare for marriage. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else. At Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Link in description. Now for today's episode.
As I record this, it is March 3rd, 2022. And, hey, Divorce Diaries. Something really wonderful happened. It was definitely serendipitous. Some of the people that do know about what's going on, they have said, because of this strange coincidence of events, they're like, what does this mean that God was with you and on your side for this to have happened? And here's what happened. I FaceTimed my youngest kid, and my youngest kid was running when she FaceTimed me. And I'm like, hey, what's going on, honey? What are you doing running? Oh, we were in a therapy session, she says. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, sounds good. Well, you can just give me a call after. But everything went silent, and she just wasn't there anymore. I couldn't see her at all. She never came onto the screen, but all I heard was the breathing, panting, and her running. And she ended up just putting the iPad down somewhere. And she was gone for like a minute. I'm like, honey. And I could hear the therapy session. I could hear the therapy session where my wife, my other kid, and my youngest child, they were in together. And I heard them lying. I heard the slander. I heard the misdirection. I heard the half-truths being told during that time. And I said, oh my gosh, wow, what do I do? I just kind of sat there and listened. Then in a minute, my youngest kid, she came back and she said, oh, hey, Dad, sorry, I just had to run back to the therapy session. And I said, can you put me back where I was? Because I can hear the session. And she said, okay, sure. And she put me back wherever she put me. And I got to continue to hear my, hopefully at the time this is being recorded, my ex-wife now. But I got to hear her telling so many lies. I got to hear how my older child really feels about me, at least how she feels in her emotions about me. I hate him. He's a dark cloud over my life. I hope to never see him again. All of these things. And I got to hear the therapist saying, oh, you're young, to my youngest. You don't understand. Your mother has been through so many things with your father, and you'll never understand. You're only this age. So maybe once you get to be older, you'll understand that a man should never treat a woman this way. And it's clearly like an episode of The View or The Talk or any other panel of women that just continue to support each other. And this therapist has never had a conversation with me. My youngest daughter, she told me that she was crying for that entire time. She said every time a flagrant comment was made about me by her older sister, and it didn't seem like my youngest was there to hear it. But she said every time you heard her say those things, Dad, she would turn around and she would look at me and she would glare. She would say, yeah, our dad tried to hurt our mother and our dad just abandons us all the time. And she said every time she would say that, she would turn around in the chair and she would stare at me. This is my younger daughter talking. She would stare at me and she would glare and she would put that inflection in her voice. Like, how could you like him? He's such a horrible person. And I was so taken aback by this because as I'm listening, I'm like, well, that didn't happen at all. Well, that didn't happen quite that way. Well, my wife did those things during that time. Wait, everything was just so untrue. It was so disgusting to hear. And I don't know what made me call. And I didn't even know that my daughter, because we had a family shared calendar, I didn't even know my daughter had therapy. So I got to see that, oh, my wife is technically not even disclosing medical or therapist appointments that my daughter is having. She has no plans on being an ethical person. She has no plans on being above board. She has no plans on being open or truthful. And in fact, hearing them talk, that's when you really get to know someone. When you hear them talk in what they think is a safe environment, and you hear what they're really going to say about you, it's like you have the awakening that you need to have, and you can either choose to accept it or not accept it. And I've chosen to accept it. So at the end, my daughter, she runs back to the device, and she at the end, once I realized the therapy was over, because they kind of said their goodbyes and everything, and I didn't want my daughter to get in trouble. I didn't want someone to find her device before. I just wanted it to be at a lock screen when she got back, and I just hung up. And I did keep myself on mute that entire time, just in case there were sounds in the background, but I just typed furiously on my phone into a notes app, typed all the things that I heard her say, heard her do, and it was just the most disgusting time that made everything make sense. I was wondering why my kids were hating me so much, but my wife, she was still coming over to my place. She was still talking to me. She was still meeting up for coffees. We were going to go watch football games together. She was doing all of this behind my kids' back. She never told them that we were getting together. And in fact, the good thing is I paid with my credit card every time we went out. So I have the actual receipts where I can show, no, this is who I was with. This is who I was sitting with. I was with your mom. I'm guessing she just told you she was going out to the store, but she was staying with me the entire time. That's what I'm guessing. So it's been tough recently talking to my daughter and finding out, yeah, mom never told us that. Mom never said that she was hanging out with you. Mom never said that she was going over to your place after you moved out. And that's when everything became very clear. My wife was trying to paint a picture of hate and sell my children on pictures of hate. But she was trying to present herself as maybe we could get back together. Let's see if we can work things out. Maybe we can talk things through. She was telling me one thing and doing another, which was an affair. And my wife is just used to having affairs. She has a lot of them, whether it be with men or whether it be with money or debt, charging things, whatever it is. She decides to always do things behind someone else's back. She decides to engage in relationships behind someone else's back. And once you realize that everything you say to my wife is something that is not going to be held confidential. Everything she does, she's likely done with someone else. If she says it's been her first time doing something, she's probably done it 7 other times. She just doesn't want to tell you. It sucks how much shame she likely has about herself, because why lie? Why lie about just about everything? It's okay. You are hanging out with the husband that you're married to, that you're separated from, that you share children with. You don't have to be ashamed of doing that. People, as they separate, they do things all the time. They go have dinner, they go have a drink, they go and try to talk things out to see if, before they throw this whole thing away, maybe something could be saved. But instead, you wanted to make your kids hate their father, but you wanted to still talk with him. You can't live that double life forever. You can't have your boyfriend in Miami and your husband in New York, and then when your husband finds out that your company closed their Miami office 6 months ago, but you'd been going down once a month, and then he came to you and he said, if your company closed their office in Miami 6 months ago and you've been going down every month, what have you been doing? Because you've been telling me you've been going to work, but now I know you haven't been working. So what's been going on? Then you finally have to either come clean, or you have to come up with another lie to explain this irregularity. My wife obviously just couldn't keep up both lies. So she leaned in the only direction that she could. She's got kids, and that's a permanent bond and permanent relationship. A mother will never want to sever the bond that she has between her kids. But a mother could very easily just take the more than 50% of divorces, more than 50% of first marriages end in divorce, and about 80% of those divorce cases are bought by women. So if you take that into account, a woman is more easily able to sever the relationship with her husband than she is with her children. So my wife, unfortunately, probably backed herself into a corner. She showed that she hates me to everyone, but she showed me that she doesn't really hate me as often as possible. So now the jig is up. Mom, you're hanging out with Dad. What's going on? Mom, you're with him. Isn't he the devil reincarnate? Why are you talking to, hanging out with, being around, engaging in any activities with my father? She had to stop. My wife decided to stop going to Miami to visit her boyfriend once it was found out that her Miami office was closed. She decided to stay with her husband, and for my wife, her husband being her children. That's great for my wife. Well, actually, no. My children are slowly finding out the truth, so most of them are estranged from me, and they will have nothing but anger toward their mother. Or they'll have suppressed anger and suppressed feelings, and they'll go through life like most people. Most people don't bring up the fact that their family is toxic. They won't ever tell their family that. They won't ever want to bring it up because they'll just want to continue to go to Thanksgiving dinners, have Sunday evening meals with family, and just not rock the boat. But it'll never be a genuine relationship. It'll never be mutually fulfilling. Or worse, they will have anger toward me and too much pride to say, I'm sorry, or hear me out, hear my side out. They won't want to be looked at as, wow, I can't believe I was fooled. I had that level of arrogance and pride myself. The level of arrogance, and I said, I'm a really smart guy. I'm accomplished in my career. I'm smart, and I figured this whole game out, the game of success in the capitalistic society. I figured it out. So now the idea that I need to accept the fact that a guy as smart as me was dumb enough to pick a non-supportive, toxic, bad wife, I had too much pride to admit that to myself. I'm sure my children will share that same pride when they are at the crossroads of accepting my mom is really a bad person. My mom manipulated me and tricked me into believing really negative things about my dad. This is my mom. Wow. I should probably call my dad and say, hey, Dad, I'm not mad at you, but I would like to talk things through. I may have overreacted with a few things in the past 10 years. But my kids and I are going to have many lost months and years where they won't have a father. I've got a daughter, and she will definitely have daddy issues, and she'll look for validation with men. She's so angry at me based on lies that my wife told her that she will likely carry that with her through life. My wife's attempt to vilify me at the expense of my children will only hurt them. It'll hurt me when, yes, my daughter gets married and I'm not there to give her away because she's still mad. It will hurt me when my daughter gets divorced from the man that she is exacting the revenge she would like to exact against me, when she's doing that to her husband. And finally, they reach a breaking point. It will hurt me when I don't get to know my grandchildren that my daughter has, or my son. They will feel like, this is good. But they won't be able to manufacture another dad Sure, they're in-laws and things like that. But your mom, the love and bond that a mom and their child have can't be remanufactured in any other way. And the bond that a father and their children and his children are supposed to have can't be manufactured either by anything else. It'll always be your stepfather. It'll always be your father-in-law. And those children will still always be my blood that I will be willing to bend over backwards for. But because of my wife's lies, my kids are going to hold hate for me, but always be somewhat conflicted because they won't be able to ignore all the memories that they have. They'll only be able to suppress them. When their dad gave them shoulder rides, piggyback rides, made them their favorite meals, decided to go to 3 different places because one liked burgers from Burger King, the other liked burgers from McDonald's, the other liked burgers from Wendy's, and Dad went to all 3 places and brought them everything in one night. Dad decided to go on a burger run where we tried burgers all over the city. Dad sat and watched different TV shows with us that he wasn't interested in. Dad used to have tickle fights. Dad started a food fight in the house one time. Dad coached me in my sport. Dad made up bedtime stories and read them all to me just off the top of his head. How can you reconcile all of those good things that your father did for you, but hate him? My kids will forever be torn. And it's really unfortunate that my wife put them in the middle in this way and sentenced them to a life of turmoil and frustration. I'm sure they'll try to do what's easiest for them. I'll just act like he doesn't exist. But the facts are I do. I exist. When you meet someone and they're like, hey, so how were things growing up? You'll have to tell a lie yourself. Oh, my father's been a horrible person, blah, blah, blah. But then you'll tell them that, well, I do have a sister and she lives with my dad. Oh my goodness, is he doing the same horrible things to her that he did to you? Well, no, she's just fooled. Well, what do you mean? I don't want to talk about it. That's what it's likely going to come down to most of the time. I don't want to talk about it because you're going to have to tell both stories. You're going to have to tell the story of why you hate your father, but then you're going to have to answer questions because you're going to be marrying or getting with in a long-term relationship a person that cares about you deeply, and they don't want to see you hurt. And they're going to want any hard thing that's been happening in your life, they're going to want it to not happen ever again. And they're going to want to alleviate some of that pain. So they, like the good person they are, they're going to ask questions. And you're just going to have to tell them, no, I don't want to talk about it. And that will drive a wedge between you. I'm saying all this in the event that my children end up hearing this. Hopefully none of these things have played out in your lives. But one lie from one parent can affect things forever. I remember how much I didn't trust my parents when I was 9 years old. And they came to me and they told me, yeah, we got something to tell you. And they broke the news to me about Santa Claus not being real. I wasn't as hurt about Santa Claus not being real as I was the fact that my parents had lied to me for so many years. That's the part that was the toughest for me to reconcile. You guys always tell me not to lie, but you lied. You gave the credit to a man that has high blood pressure, diabetes, is extremely elderly. And this is a feat that not even Speedy Gonzalez could tackle. He comes down the chimneys of every child to bring them current video game systems? Wait. If the elves make the toys on the North Pole, how did he make a PlayStation? I don't understand this. None of these things made any sense, but you wanted me to believe these things. I looked at my dad. I said, why wouldn't you want to take the credit for actually spending your hard-earned middle-class money and buying me these gifts? These Hot Wheels and the credit for them being purchased after you went from store to store, that should be your spoils of war, not St. Nicholas. Come on, Dad. But that's what hurt me more, that my parents lied to me, not that Santa Claus wasn't real. So my hope one day is that my ex-wife comes to my kids and she says, I'm really sorry, guys. I lied about some things. I'm going to call your dad and I'm going to tell him that I told you guys I lied about this, this, and this. And I'm sure I lied about other things because all I did at that time was lie. All I did was want to paint a different picture. One that was different from what really was. And I'm very sorry. I hope you guys forgive me. And more importantly, I hope you guys give your father a chance, because he was never as bad as I made him out to be. And if my prayer comes true, my wife does that, I hope my children are able to suppress their pride and remember the things that I've told them. It's okay. We can always make things better if we really want to. It may take an apology that's difficult to give. It may take pride that's difficult to leave. It may take you having a conversation that you never wanted to have. But things can be made better through a thing called grace. And I'll always hold my kids in grace. There are two people that children are supposed to trust throughout their lives, and that's their parents, their mom and their dad. Yes, their parents are supposed to be able to at least justify certain lies. Well, I didn't tell you about your mom's drug addiction because, I hoped she would get into rehab and you were 6. I didn't know how to explain addiction to you, especially that type of addiction. I hoped that I could get your mom help and we would never have to have this conversation, or at least until your mom wanted to tell you from a very healthy, I've beaten this drug state. But instead, we lie. We cheat and we steal. That's what humans are designed to do, but we're supposed to do our damn best at trying to not succumb to our human nature. Do I hate my wife for all the lies that she's told? Yeah, I do. A lot. Because I know what it will do. I know what it has done to our family. And most importantly, it didn't have to be this way. My wife didn't have to choose lying. She could have chosen silence. That's one thing. Or she could have chosen the full truth. But at every turn, my wife chooses to lie. And my children, because after all, I was the same way when my parents divorced. You don't think that your mom, that is, in most cases, smaller than your dad, her voice is a higher octave, she's demure, she's sweet, she's your mom. At no point do you actually think your mom is going to lie. And if there is a screaming match, fussing match, or fight between your parents, of course you're going to take the size of the person that you view as weak. Whether they are the stronger one or not, whether they are the bully or not, whether they're in the wrong or not. That's why so many children take the size of their mom. Their mom's a girl. There's literally a phrase, don't hit girls. Don't treat a woman that way. There are no phrases, don't hit boys. Don't treat a man that way. I'm not going to go down the road of exceptions. Well, it could mean some people say don't hit boys. No, you know what I mean. Don't be a fucking asshole if you're that person. There's no saying that says, hey, women, don't treat men this way. We want men to control how they react, how they speak to a woman. Treat a woman with respect. Yes, because she's smaller, she's softer, she's this, she's that. So yes, you're going to also think it's going to creep over into, believe mom. Really difficult, really tough. Kids, I want you to know if you listen to this, I love you very much. My door will never be closed. Even if it seems like my door's closed. I'm quiet for the past decade. I haven't even sent a happy birthday text. You gotta understand, the things that you've done, they hurt. Have I given you a pass because you've been lied to? Yes, I have. Have I given you multiple? Yes, I have. Did it hurt every time you disrespected me because you felt like you ought to? Yeah. And maybe I'm just at a point where I can't reach out now because I'm wounded and I'm hurting and I just don't have it in me. Yep. I can definitely be there. I want you to know the love I have for you, it won't go away. And my door being open, it'll stay open. But just know that even if it seems or feels like it's closed, it won't be. But as aggressively as you have told me to stay out of your life, eventually I may just do it. But it won't mean my door is closed. I love you.
Wow, that was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The daily saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.